Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce Ms. Jennifer Goodman, an accomplished English language fellow from the U.S. Embassy in Colombo. She is currently serving in the Faculty of Arts for the DELF program at the University of Jaffna. Originally from Colorado, Ms. Goodman holds a master's degree in Southeast Asian Studies from Cornell University. She is also a certified educator in secondary education, specializing in social studies, English, and English as a second language. From 2012 to 2015, she worked as an English language instructor at the U.S. Embassy's American Center in Myanmar. Later, from 2016 to 2024, she served as a lecturer in the Department of English at Chulalongkorn University in Bangkok, where she played a key role in designing curricula, coordinating courses, and developing assessments in collaboration with her colleagues. With over a decade of teaching experience at the post-secondary level in Thailand and Myanmar, Ms. Jennifer Goodman has sharpened her skills in curriculum design, course coordination, and assessment development. Ms. Jennifer's commitment to fostering English education extends to her engagement with the American Corner in Jaffna, where she has actively participated in community initiatives such as youth forums, library reading programs, and cultural celebrations, including Deepavali and Halloween. She has also contributed to teaching English for Access Program students and delivered impactful sessions on media literacy and AI in education at the American iHub in Batticaloa during its Future Skills Boot Camp. She is a passionate educator and researcher, and her academic interests focus on assessment, reflecting her dedication to enhancing educational practices in diverse cultural and academic contexts. Today, we are fortunate to listen to a plenary speech by a well-experienced educator, Ms. Jennifer Goodman. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Jennifer Goodman, a passionate advocate for language education whose wealth of experience and insight promises to inspire and enlighten us all. Over to you, Ms. Jennifer.
Thank you very much for that kind introduction. I'm just getting set up here on my end. I'm very happy to be in Sri Lanka now. It's been 2.5 months that I've been in Jaffna, and I'm working at the University of Jaffna teaching English. So this is my first time giving a talk about AI, and there are so many people with a wealth of information that they've all shared with us. I'd like to thank all of the other participants and the organizers for your very good sessions and very educational information that you've shared with all of us. For today, my talk is going to revolve around, let me see if I can share my screen. My talk is going to revolve around teaching reading. Thank you all for your patience. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, ma'am, we can see.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, so today we're talking about using AI to help teach reading. And I've provided my email address here on the first slide. So if there's anything unclear, or if you have any doubts, or if you want to follow up, you're welcome to email me at jeffnajenny@gmail.com. So I am an English language fellow, like Kevin, who presented on the first day, who's in Kandy, and Judith, who is in Madra. I'm Jenny in Jaffna. So welcome to message me with any questions you may have to my email address here. So what have I done so far with AI? I have to be honest with you. I don't find using AI very comfortable. I think a lot of you find it very easy and you've really embraced it. But I've been very hesitant to use AI in the classroom. And so I wanted to tell you that quite honestly, because I want to share with you what I have been able to do using AI, even though I'm quite uncomfortable with it. So the first thing that I do is I like to share short stories about AI with my students. So this is my favorite one. It's called The Perfect Match by Ken Liu. He's a Chinese author, and I use this short story as a discussion topic. So I think that for us, we're just kind of tapping into AI, but our students are the ones who are going to be really answering the questions. Many of you asked a very good question. What are the ethics of using AI in education? And I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if it's ethical now, if it will be ethical in the future. I don't really know the answer. It's such a subjective question. And so I like to leave it to my students to talk about, right? I like to ask them, after reading this story, what do you think about the role of AI? Would you integrate AI more into your life? Which characters do you identify most with? So I like to ask my students these kinds of questions. So I like to make it AI as the topic of discussion in the classroom. And using this short story is fodder for the class discussion. So they have something to reflect on. So this is one way I've approached it. Another way that I've approached it is giving an assignment where students are required to use ChatGPT. Many times we say, don't use ChatGPT for this, it's cheating. I know I do. But in this case, we assign them a lesson where they have to use ChatGPT and then reflect on their use of it. So in this particular, this is a copy of an assignment for students. We ask students to have ChatGPT interview them for an internship or for a job. And so they have to record a video. This is using an extension, which many of the presenters, including the last one, discussed. You're using an extension and the student can speak to the ChatGPT and get the ChatGPT to play the role of an interviewer. And so then after they do that, we can actually have them video themselves doing it so we can see if they really did the assignment or not. And then after, we have a reflection. What did the students feel? What did they think about using ChatGPT? So this is, in this case, this is, using interactive chat box for conversation practice. So just giving the students the assignment, go use this, go to the computer lab, use this chat bot and interact with it, and then reflect on how you felt afterwards with the class. Because many of the presenters have mentioned, it really is the connection with the people that we really care about, right? We can't take away the people aspect of learning. So after they've done this assignment with the ChatGPT, then they come and tell the people in the classroom, what was their experience? Did they like it? Did they not like it? And we give them some guiding questions. So we ask them how it compares to having a real person interview you, the quality of the feedback that ChatGPT provides, and any other strengths or limitations that they observe from the interview task. So obviously this is a pretty high level of usage, but it gives the students an opportunity to think about whether or not it's a good idea to use ChatGPT and they're using their higher order thinking skills. They're really thinking about the strengths and the weaknesses of these AI opportunities. And some students love it. After doing this assessment, some students found it very nice because they got immediate feedback in times where many times they weren't getting immediate feedback from their professors. They also felt a little bit more relaxed because they didn't feel so judged by people when they were mispronouncing things. So for many students, they enjoyed this assignment, and then they came back to the classroom, and in the classroom, we spoke about it together. So there was a human element to this assignment as well. They were able to reflect to me and to their peers about their feelings about using ChatGPT for interactions. But these are just two things that I've done so far with ChatGPT and with engaging AI in the classroom. I would like to ask you now, what challenges do you face when teaching reading in your classroom? Professor Roshan Ragel posed the question in his session, can everyone learn? Is it true for you in your classrooms? If you wouldn't mind putting it into the chat box now. I also have a Google form in case we have a technical glitch. I can get that information from you later on. Okay, so some of the students are not interested. Any other challenges that you face when you're teaching reading? Okay, the reading lesson is lengthy. So the students start to get bored, is it? And then the level of the students, so you have different levels in the classroom. Yes, I think that that's almost universal. It's very difficult for us to have one class with all the same levels. Right. Good. So new vocabulary or teaching vocabulary in context, right? Students have trouble with okay, mother tongue influence, pronunciation and vocabulary. The topics. Okay, yeah. So are the students able to identify with the topics that we select? It's a big impact on our teaching, right? If they understand it or if they find it exciting, it impacts their interest in their reading. Pronunciation difficulty. Yeah, I think that this is very interesting. The students can read but can't understand. So they can speak out the word. So if you ask them to read aloud, they'll do it, but the comprehension is lacking. Okay, learner difficulties, dyslexia. Yes, absolutely. Some are able to do it and others need help. Yes, the vocabulary and the understanding. And the motivation, right? One of the real challenges is the students' motivation for reading. Okay. Yes, I think that all of these are very good. Thank you very much for all of your answers, and we understand you very well. A difficulty concentrating, difficulty contextualizing. Yes, I think especially for people who don't read often, they have a very difficult time contextualizing because they don't have a framework established. So yes, thank you all for your answers, and feel free to put in more answers as they come to you into the chat box and ask questions in the chat box. So we need to have reading passages that are personalized, appropriate, and engaging, right? We need it to connect with the students and be on their level and be interesting enough to know why they would want to read it. And so this is a real challenge for teachers because we have a lack of resources, we have not enough time to create the texts for the students, to find the right texts that are appropriate, that are not too lengthy. And so and if it's good for one student, it might not be appropriate for another. A lot of times, even if we're finding a text that's perfect for the middle group, then we've got the top students bored and we've got the bottom students totally lost. And so it's really difficult to find the appropriate level of reading and engaging, interesting enough to, want to engage with the text. And so I'm not going to talk a lot about this because you've heard about it a lot, but just that the TESOL technology standards, there are 4 goals for language teachers: to acquire and maintain foundational knowledge and skills in technology; 2, to integrate pedagogical knowledge and skills with the technology to enhance language teaching and learning; 3, apply technology in record keeping, feedback, and assessment; and 4, use the technology to improve communication, collaboration, and efficiency. So many people have discussed this already in the conference, so I won't go into detail. It is important for us to embrace this technology as a tool. So we've talked about AI. There are 2 main types of AI. One is algorithmic and the other one is generative. So algorithmic provides human-generated answers. Examples of these are Duolingo, which is that language learning app. If you want to learn Spanish, you can go online and use Duolingo or Babbel. Siri also is algorithmic AI. So it's providing human answers, human-generated answers. And then the newer one, which is the generative AI, which provides computer-generated answers. For example, ChatGPT, Gemini, these are the generative ones. So I've focused my attention mostly on the algorithmic one. I think that the future is going to be bright for generative, and you've heard a lot about Gen AI and how to use it. So I'm going to turn my attention a little bit to the algorithmic side of AI. So how we need to empower students for lifelong learning. And this is a challenge because a lot of times students think that learning only happens during their classroom time, and then they leave the classroom and they leave the books behind. So in order to create this desire for lifelong learning, students need to be able to independently learn and independently check their own answers so that they are engaged and becoming responsible learners. And teachers should move to playing more of the role of the facilitator in the classroom. And so how do we do this? This is a big question that many people ask. How do we create an environment for lifelong learning, and how do we make students more responsible for their own learning? And it comes down to whether or not your classroom context allows for it or not. So are you able to use computers, tablets, and smartphones in your classroom? Or do you have to use paper printouts? Why don't you share with me now in the chat? Are the students able to use technology in the classroom, or are you having to rely on paper printouts? Okay, so some people are saying both and some are saying paper printouts. So this is going to be different, slightly different for each group. But those of you who have some access to students using computers, tablets, and smartphones in the classroom, this is going to apply to you first. But I haven't forgotten those of you who say we don't have enough technology in the classroom. So don't worry, I'm going to touch on those of you who are using the paper printouts as well. So I've been using this program called Read Theory for the last 3 years. And the studies that they've done on their own program shows that usage leads to a 15-point advantage in reading growth scores for top North Carolina districts. So this was used and applied in the United States. However, read theory is being used globally now. It's just that this report comes from the 2023-24 state reading assessments in North Carolina. And they see that students who are using this program saw a major jump in their reading capacity and their reading scores. And so I have been using read theory. I'm a certified educator in read theory, and you can also become a certified educator. They actually allow you to sign up. So you just join the wait list on the program, and they will give you a training in how to do this. You don't have to become a certified educator. You can just use the program. But if you feel like you like it and you'd like to learn more about the program, this is a free program and it's accessible to you. So if you want to know more about this, you can go to the website, and I'll be talking about that more. So using read theory. So it's an online platform. Students can use it on their phones, on their tablets, on the school computers, on their parents' phones. So it's not an application, it's an online mechanism. So they go to Google and they put it in. Once they sign up, they are able to read passages. So what do the passages look like? They look like the ones that you see here. So on the left, we have how plants eat. You notice that this is a very basic passage, a lower level passage. On the right, you see peaches on ice. This is I think it's a 10th grade passage. So this is a much more advanced passage. And it asks questions. If you see here, you've got actually 7 questions on the right for peaches on ice. And there's one, so the first question is, as used in paragraph 2, which is the best definition of incongruous or incongruous. And so students can choose from 5 different options. So it's multiple choice answers, and students choose the answer. But as you see underneath inappropriate, you can see the core standard is craft and structure, and the explanation they give is, they tell you incongruous, they tell you it's an adjective, they give you the definition, and then they explain why that's the right answer in the paragraph. So there's quite a lot of information that students get. They get it as soon as they finish the reading passage. They'll find out which questions they got right and which questions they got wrong, because the computer grades it for them. And so you'll notice here at the bottom, you can see that the student answered the first 6 questions right, but the 7th one that they got wrong. And so they, even though they got those right, they can still go back. If they just maybe guessed the answer, they can go back and read what the right answer is and why that's the right answer. So they get a thorough explanation about the answer, whether they got it right or wrong. Any questions? Oh, okay. So on the bottom of the screen, I've circled there's the wrong answer. So we know that the student got one answer wrong. They can see this, and you can also see their work online. So you can find out whether or not they're getting these questions right or wrong. You don't have to look in order for the students to see their answers. So that's good. So the students don't have to come and say, ma'am, can you check my work for me? Or sir, will you please look at this and tell me why I got the answer wrong? They can independently find out the right answer and why it's right or wrong. Of course, if they don't understand, then they can come to, once they read the explanation, they can come to you for a follow-up. But at least for the beginning part, it's all automated. So there's an answer key with an explanation. It's color coded. So at the top, they've colored the right answer with green, they've colored the wrong answer with red. So that's really nice too, because you know then that this answer is a wrong answer, and so there's a visual clue as well, so students don't get so confused. So how does the algorithm work? Well, if you notice here, this is a sample taken from a STAR student who was very dedicated to this program and really wanted to improve their reading skills. So if you see at the bottom of the screen, it says number 46, Sir Isaac Newton changes the world. So that's the text that the student read. You see the date taken. You can see that they did it in October of 2023. You see that it's a grade level 8, and you can see the lexical level, and you can see that they received 20%. So they didn't pass that reading text. The questions were too difficult for them, and they got 20% on an 8th grade text. So then the level came down, right? So for the next text, number 47, Driving Change, that one is grade 7 rather than grade 8. But the student got 100% on that text. And so the next text, number 48, became more difficult again. So they're back at level 8 again. And then they didn't do so well there, so then they're back at level 7. So it fluctuates. You can see grade 5, 6, 7, 8, based on how the student is doing. If they're doing very, very well, the texts get more difficult. If they're doing poorly, the texts get easier so they can gain confidence in their reading and it's more appropriate to their level. You can also see and monitor how the students are doing and check their grade level progress on their practice quizzes. So if you see at the beginning on the far left-hand side of the screen, the student was at the 5th grade level. Then they went up to 7th grade level, then down, then back up based on their answers. Notice that students cannot drop 3 grade levels below their highest attained grade level. So if you find out that the students are actually getting help from outside, or if they're using Google Translate, or if they're asking their friends for help, then the text will be too difficult for them. And you can reset the level so that they can start again. So it can come down low enough for them to attain success in their reading. And I think that's the main idea here. We're using this application, this website, Read Theory, in order to make it so that students can be successful in reading, that they don't feel that they're a failure in reading, they don't feel that they should give up reading, that they feel that they can do it. And so that's the idea here, that it's appropriate to their levels. So you can see this fluctuation over time and you can monitor it as well. So important notes about using Read Theory. You should, if you're using this program, encourage your students not to get stuck on one question, just to keep going forward, because then the algorithm can balance things out. And the second thing is that the algorithm will keep adjusting. So if the students are getting outside help from Google Translate, from their friends, from ChatGPT, the text will become too hard for them. You should tell your students this, that if they're getting outside help, it's going to become too difficult. So if students are if certain students are very competitive, they may find it weird that they're not passing every text because they're maybe used to getting 100% on everything. Those are the, for your top students in your classroom, maybe they're used to getting 100% on every text. And then if they fail, they may feel that that's strange. So you can explain to them that it's pushing them to their highest potential level. What I like about this program is that it's gamified for motivation. So students start as luminaries, and then they move up to orienter, a tactician. So they get these points, and the points put them at different levels. So you can see progress level, virtuoso, 87 points to the next level. And that motivates students to level up. You can also encourage them in the classroom. So, the other good thing is it doesn't matter what grade level they are all earning knowledge points. So if you've got one student who's at grade 1 and one student who's at grade 5, they're still both earning these knowledge points. So they can be in competition with each other, even though they're reading very different passages with very different vocabulary levels and very different contexts. They can also be all in competition to earn more points, because all of this is standardized between the levels. So they all start out at luminary level, even if they're at different reading levels. So it's gamified for motivation. You can track the student's progress. So here's my superstar student again. The student completed, or the student attempted 364 quizzes. They didn't do this only in the classroom, they did it at home. So this can be taken home for homework as well. And I know that for some of you, it's a bit of a struggle, but if the students are really excited about it, this can be done outside of the classroom as well. Out of the 364, the student only passed 238. So this is important for us to note, because it's not that they have to pass every single quiz. That's not the most important thing. The most important thing is that they keep trying. Because the level keeps going up, we need to encourage them to keep trying, keep working, and keep learning. You see that the student has attained 7,413 knowledge points, which are the same for all students. They can all attain that no matter their grade level. You see here that this student is in 8th grade, almost in 9th grade reading level, and you can see their lexicon level is 1,060. So they're in the 8th grade level, almost 9th grade level. When they started this program, they were put in the 5th grade pre-test. So when they did the pre-test at the beginning, they attained a 5th grade level. And now they're nearly at a 9th grade level of reading. And this was within 4 months. So really huge leaps for this student in their reading capacity. And the questions are challenging. So it really does show that the more you practice with this program, the more you progress. So what can be done with this information? So especially with the lexical level, you can assign students books. You can look up what books are, lexical level of 1,000, and you can find the books that might be the right level for them. If you want them to be reading longer passages, you can decide on which are the right lexical level, so that they're not too difficult. So you can use that information for other things. So both of these are the lexical level of 1,000. You can also celebrate achievements. So one thing that a lot of teachers are doing in the United States now is this Hot Cocoa Reading Challenge, which was created by Amy Smith. And she's having students make these mugs. And then as they, paper cutouts of mugs. And as they read, then they can put marshmallows on their mugs, cutting it out and gluing it to their mugs to have a visual representation of their success in reading. So there's another way to motivate them. Technical problems, or for those of you who replied that you're using paper cutout, or you're using paper rather than electronics, if students are, forgot their electronic devices or they're uncharged, this program also gives comprehension worksheets. So if you need to have a printable version, you can print out different reading level versions. So it is possible to print. the best way is to use the electronic devices because the algorithm works very well for the individualization aspect. So if you want to differentiate learning in small groups, like for example, here you could find out, if you can find out the students' levels, you can print out these fourth grade worksheets, and then they give you an opportunity to click on text and questions, text questions and answers, so that you don't have to print out the same the whole thing with the answers attached every time, and it will save you some paper. So these do exist. You can also assign them to small groups. So if you identify these students are at a fourth grade level, you can give them that assignment and have another small group, maybe at the third grade level. So you're not, so you can differentiate those groups, and you don't have to tell the students which level they're at. There's also a mechanism to cover that up so the students don't know what level they're working at if you feel like there's going to be some tension between students about not being at the same level. Another thing I really love about Read Theory is that there's a citation. So it models really good practices for the students, right? So, this passage here is about pyramids, and we know where it came from. It came from Penn State News, and it gives the author's name. And although, for many of you, you may be teaching younger people, it's so good for them to see citations and giving credit, because then it becomes more normalized and they understand, they can appreciate that it's important to give credit to the original author. So I really like the fact that they provide the citation for the students. They don't ask questions about the citation, but they do that automatically, just giving the citation so that the students see where the origins of the material, because Read Theory didn't write the material themselves, so they need to give credit to the original authors. You can also give the students certificates. You can print out these certificates to celebrate their success. And if you need reading comprehension weekly lesson plans, they have weekly lesson plans on the explaining about tone, and these are all leveled as well based on. They're designed for grades 3 to 6, but don't worry, because they can be adjusted to any. They can be adaptable to any age you may be teaching. So it's finding this main idea, finding the central idea. We have to do that at every level of reading, and so it's good for any student that you may be teaching. My critique of Read Theory. So first of all, it's a free program. You don't need to pay. There are ads that come up that, so that they can make money, but you don't need to pay, and your students don't need to pay to use it. You can see here that in this passage, Alyssa has a bunch of coins that she wants to organize. First, she puts the quarters into one jar, then she puts the dimes into another, then she puts the nickels into another, and finally she puts the pennies into another. Now, we know that this is American currency, and it's the way that we refer to American currency, but your students may not be familiar with this context. Fortunately, you don't need to know that to be able to answer the question. But why am I highlighting this? It's because it is American-centric, right? So the cultural aspects, the sports that they bring up, the currency that they bring up, there are cultural aspects that are for the American school child and not for the Sri Lankan school child. And so that is my main critique of the program, that it's quite American-centric. I've spoken to the creators, and I've expressed that I think that there should be something where you can tick a box and say, not all of my students are Americans. And so it's a very small team, so they're responsive to that critique, and we'll see if they make some alterations and some changes in the future. So there's a new AI passage builder that uses generative AI. Up until now, we've been talking about predictive AI, but this is about generative AI now. So this is a different part of read theory that you can build your own passage. Much like what Kevin discussed in his session, you can make your own reading passage for your students. So I asked it to do a reading passage for Navaratri. And so you can see that they came up with a short passage with text and questions. And then it asks, what does the word Navaratri mean? It asks who is worshipped during Navaratri. You'll notice that this is a little bit problematic because although in the passage it talks about different avatars of the goddess Durga, on the right-hand side, we actually have the right answer according to read theory, but then we have two other right answers too. So you have to, many people have talked about this, you have to go through and make sure that you're comfortable with these answers. For example, these are all, according to most Hindus, would be all correct answers. So you would have to go in, once it's produced this text, you'd have to go in and change those so that there's only one right answer and not three right answers. So if you're interested in using read theory, how do you get started? So you want to go to the website, the read theory website, and I would encourage you to sign up both as a student and as a teacher. Even if you say, well, I'm a teacher, I'm not a student, I think it's a good idea to sign up as a student as well, because then you get an experience of what your students will see. You'll see what your students see and feel what your students will feel, so you can help guide them through the process. So I would make one account as a student account and one account as a teacher account. And then you need to guide your students to making their own student accounts. And so when you create your student account, you have to put in a class code. If the students put in a class code, then you can track their progress. So they need to make a username, a password, put in their age, and they will choose appropriate topics for different ages. So if a student is under the age of 18, they're not going to see the same topics as somebody who's over 18. And for class code, you can give them their class code, and then you can track their progress. You can see what they're reading, and you can give them feedback, give them encouragement, and give them help if they've got problems. And so, for example, this is just one of my classes. You will see this screen. This is the class code. You can give this to the students and have them add this class code. Much like if you've used Google Classroom, there's a class code for Google Classroom. You give them the class code, and then everybody shows up in your roster, and you can follow and track their progress. So it's always here underneath your class name, as well as so you can always find it easily. When your students first start using the program, you'll see that it'll say, let the learning begin, and they'll ask them to answer 8 questions as a pretest. It takes about 20 minutes, and the questions will change in difficulty based on the students' answers. It's important that the students complete this independently so that they get the most accurate level for them, so we can differentiate their learning. If they get up, or if they stop, or if your class ends before the 20 minutes is up and they come back later, they will have to start from the beginning again, because they have to finish the pretest in those 20 minutes. For some students, it might be more like 25 or 30 minutes. So make sure you've got enough time for them to try it out in your classroom. So that was a lot of talk from me. Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, feel free to send me an email put it into the chat box, and I'm happy to answer your questions now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jennifer Goodman, for your thought-provoking and engaging session. And my sincere thanks goes to all for your active participation.